Warning: the Savage Nation contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion advised.
And now, it's Northern California's most popular radio talk show host, Michael Savage.
Have been speaking out against the war. First of all, I want to play for our viewers, if they didn't hear it, Senator John Kerry, who spoke out against the White House and took some flack for it. Let's listen to what he had to say.
So what we need now is not just a regime change in Saddam Hussein and Iraq, but we need a regime change in the United States.
What was he saying there? Was that a poor choice of words?
It's politics. See, what Kerry said is it's politics. Look what was said about Bill Clinton, everything from murderer to traitor. All right, so it's politics. This is First Amendment stuff. You could say this is not seditious stuff. We're going to compare this to seditious material, in my opinion, when we start talking about another Democrat, Mr. Kucinich, who ran Cleveland into the ground as a mayor. And right now, in my opinion, he's running the Buckeye State into the ground with his seditious comments. I don't know if we have that stuff.
Yeah, we do. But before we get just to that, Michael, I just want to say there are those who would say John Kerry, by comparing the president's administration to the regime of Saddam Hussein, that he had stepped over the line. And you don't think so?
No, it doesn't offend me in that way. As I say, to me, it's politics. I don't approve in my own mind of that choice of words. But okay, so what? I mean, as I say, much worse was said about Bill Clinton by Republicans. And to me, this is within the bounds of a tennis court, if you know what I'm saying. Big deal. So he said regime, implying it's an illegitimate administration. We know what he meant, but I don't think it really went to the extent that this guy Kucinich did.
All right, well, you're bringing up Kucinich. Let's get to what he said. Here's a statement, and everyone can read it on our screen. It reads, "This war is killing our troops. This war is killing innocent Iraqi civilians. This war must end now. It was unjust when it started 2 weeks ago, and it is still unjust today. The U.S. should get out now and try to save the lives of American troops and Iraqi citizens." All right, how are they different?
Well, for one point, there's a big difference between the First Amendment and the first rule of war. After all, what this man said is during wartime, the enemies of America around the world. He may feel that, but certainly he could hold his peace until the war is over. What is the point of saying this while men are dying on the battlefield? And by the way, we're winning, Mr. Kucinich. Despite all of your backbiting and your treasonous statements, Mr. Kucinich, we're winning this war, and you've just marginalized yourself. That's what I'd like to say to this guy. This is very, very weaselly to do this while young guys are dying over there. I'm sorry, you don't knock the troops while they're dying over there, Mr. Kucinich. I don't know where you grew up, but it doesn't look very good to me.
Now, Michael, Kucinich, if I'm not mistaken, has declared at least candidacy or exploring the opportunity of becoming a presidential candidate by, getting the money and the funding for that. Isn't this something that somebody might want to say because of politics?
Well, president of Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, what is he going to be president of? Al Sharpton's declared his candidacy for the presidency. Today, anyone can be president. It's what I learned as a little boy in America. It doesn't matter who you are. In America, anyone can be president, and Dennis Kucinich proves that in America, virtually anyone can run for the presidency. I don't think he has much of a chance.
All right. I want to also ask you about this. As you well know, some of the most heartwarming stories in any war are those of the compassion that are shown by troops. I mean, they can be just amazing. What do you think about the compassion of the U.S. troops and what they have to face in order to be compassionate as they try to help out Iraqi civilians?
Alex, this is a tragedy. The boys are innocent, good men, and they've been steeped in political correctness in our schools. I'm talking about our guys, 18, 19, 20-year-old guys. Witnessed the two so-called Iraqi women who didn't stop at a checkpoint, one of whom was allegedly pregnant. We learned afterwards that they were planted suicide bombers. The reason these guys are dead is because they didn't blow the car up from a distance. Instead, when she started to scream, they went to help her. That was their instincts as good Americans. And there's a learning curve here, Alex. In World War II in the Pacific Theater with the Japanese, very similar similar lessons had to be learned according to my reading. Let me give you an example, if I may. When our boys went over there, innocent guys, many of them never faced anything like this. They thought there were rules of war. They found Japanese dying on the battlefield. They went over to help them, and the guy would turn around and shoot them or blow up a grenade. Or the other side would kill our medics, or the other side would kill our wounded who were laying there. They never saw anything like this. So it took a number of engagements and a lot of deaths in the Western Pacific for our boys at that time to understand that it's kill or be killed, it's shoot first, or forever hold your peace 6 feet under. And I think this learning curve is going on right now in Iraq. It's a terrible tragedy. And the only people who I would blame is the liberal establishment. I really mean that. Because had they blown that car up, the only people that they'd have to explain this to would be the editors of the New York Times and the Washington Post. But they'd be alive. Right now they have grieving widows and parents. And it's all because they had too much compassion.
So what do you think? Do you think we should change the rules of engagement?
I think they've changed quite dramatically. In other words, we had changed them after the last car bombing, where they were stopping them over there. They were making them walk towards our men. But then they got very clever, the Iraqis. And they set up the so-called pregnant woman scenario of screaming as though it's a woman in need. These are good American guys. When they hear a woman screaming in need, what do? They go over to help her. They fell right into the trap. They're dead. The rule of engagement should say, if they violate your rule of engagement in a time of war, I'm sorry, you can't risk your life. Your life comes first, not theirs.
Michael Savage, thank you so much for being here in this hour that usually would belong to you, where we're not covering this war.
Oh, Alex, that's so sweet of you.
Well, there you go. I mean, it's the truth. Anyway, host of MSNBC's Savage Nation, thanks so much. Also host of the best-selling book by the same name. We also want to take a moment now and recognize some of America's bravest, the young men and women on the front lines and behind the scenes in Operation Iraqi Freedom. MSNBC's Natalie Morales joins us with some of the pictures and thoughts that all of you have mailed in to us. Natalie.
Hi, Alex, and we've got a lot of photos to get through to add to our America's Bravest photo. Also, let me get right to it. Claudia Bernard sends us this photo of her husband, Corporal Edward Bernard. He is he's on board the USS Bonham now in the Persian Gulf, and her message to Edward, your wife and family miss you and they can't wait for you to return home. Here's another picture, Army Specialist Stephen Fuller Jr. Let me put him actually right there. And his family sends us this picture in from Grand Rapids, Michigan. They are proud of Edward and send their prayers to his unit, the 3rd Infantry, now in Iraq. And Darcy and Rick Burke send in this picture of their son, Private First Class Leroy Clark. He's with the 2nd Battalion U.S. Marines, also in Iraq. And Private First Class Clark graduated from Camp Pendleton in January of this year, ahead of his class, just so that he could ship out with his platoon to Iraq. And his family is proud of him and sends their prayers for his safety along with the other men and women fighting overseas. And finally, one more picture here. Elios, let me put it right up there. Elios and Herbert Rainey are the proud grandparents of U.S. Army Sergeant Rodrigo Davis with the 3rd Infantry out of Fort Campbell, Kentucky. And they write, we pray a prayer of comfort for the POWs, all the families and all of those who have lost loved ones. We must keep the faith. God bless them all. Return home safe. Do you have loved ones who are serving overseas in the military? If so, we'd like to feature them on our America's Bravest photo wall. You can mail the picture to America's Bravest, P.O. Box 2617, Secaucus, New Jersey, 07096. You can find that address also on our website, or you can email a picture to America's Bravest.